So I am with Member of Parliament Virendra Sharma, Member of Parliament of Ealing and Southall. I'm going to talk about 50 years of his political journey. Virendraji, you're one of the most senior Labour Asian representing the Asian community in Southall. Um, and I was reading your biography. You, you're born in 1947, right? 5th of April, 1947, in British India. From India, from Punjab to Southall or Ealing or UK journey, do you like to share your journey so far?
Thank you very much, Divakarji. For me, when I talk about my journey, it's a mixture of happiness, sad period of life, but it has to be shared. You can't just get into the emotions all the time. As you said, I was born in a village called Mandhali. My mother, late Ram Pyari Sharma, my father, late Dr. Lekha Sharma, with my other brothers and sisters, and the whole my grandparents, other sons, my uncles, living in the village. Big family, but happy family. I went to the local school, go to the high school, go to the university in the nearest college, done my first degree from there. I must say that I was a sportsman as well. But as every other young person, I was also ambitious to go outside India.
Right.
Means coming to England or any other European or America, Canada, with the hope to have a better life, more opportunities, earn more money.
Right.
But that was the only way I thought my future will depend upon.
Right.
I felt it, that there was less opportunities in India at that time. Maybe I won't be able to succeed in a proper profession. And I spoken to my two brothers who were living in Britain at that time, and my family, my parents. Also talking to other friends and the people who would be giving you the advice on the immigration matters, that what is the best way to get to England.
I just wanted to ask you one question because you said about it was a happy family.
Yeah.
And you wanted to move out to have a better life.
Yeah.
What's the difference between these two?
Because
you wanted to have more opportunities in the West, or
no. If you look at, you will see it. You are living in a good family. We were not starving.
Right.
We were not hard up.
Right.
We had a reasonable life, financial as well. It was not that we went without a food, but to become an independent, because I was growing. 20, maybe in the next few years we'll get married, we'll have my own house. That type of thing I'm talking about.
That was the ambition, to have
independent life,
right.
Not to be a burden on my family anymore. These were the feelings. And every young person who is in the 20s wanted to be going away. That was a very fashion, I would say, right. Rather than necessity. When you see a lot of people going back from 5-10 years living in Britain, and they went with good money. And then they also show that money by spending on things which I would not do myself, but they were very, there was a capacity to show off. Then it was agreed that yes, he wanted to go, that find the legal way to get in. And the advice was that he should need to get married to somebody who's living in Britain. So at the same time, my wife Nirmala's parents were also looking for a suitable match for their daughter. So somebody in the middle introduced my family and her family, her grandfather. It was agreed that, okay, this is the boy. My brother's wives have seen Nirmala and approved after talking to her and the family. Yes, my marriage was arranged. I came to Britain, immediately got married. I came here on 27th of July, 10th of August was my registration, 31st of August was my wedding day.
Right.
So that's it, and both of us living in one room with my brother's family, and I was doing little jobs in the one factory or the other. But then October, I got a chance to become a bus conductor at the same
year we are talking
1968.
about?
1968.
And how was the life at that time, 1968, for someone born and brought up in India, in Punjab? Did you experience any discrimination, any racial challenges? You look very fair, but being an Asian, did you face any challenges at all?
There was a general anti-immigrant feelings.
Right.
That was the time when Enoch Powell made his speech, very famous speech, a river of, blood of rivers, right? And that was the time when we had the dockers strike with the support of the union. Before I arrived here, there was a strike in the local Southall rubber factory. Again, was supported by the trade union. But there was anti-Asian, anti-immigrant feelings in the community. I remember people shouting at you to say, "You Paki, go back." There was very common occurrences when people were spitting on you. I was lucky that I did not suffer that much discrimination or direct racism, but I could witness what was happening, and many other issues where you can say we were unfairly treated by the employer, the workforce, or on the streets. So it's not that at one level that no employer was defending you or protecting you. No, it was not the case. You were discriminated by the employer. If a white worker is put on £5 an hour, which is too big amount to mention now, that time it was 3 shillings or 65 shillings or £1, less than £1 an hour salary, or Asian or the black worker was on half the rate. There was no check, there was no legal remedies. But then people start raising the voices. Indian Workers Association led many campaigns along with the TUC and other progressive organizations in those days when I was around 1968 when I arrived here. There was no political representation in general. There was one local councillor from the Indian community, then nobody in other areas were any other black or Asian council representative, forget about the parliament. There
Have
was
you
no.
ever regretted that you moved out of your country or out of your birth country, came to the country where you experienced some sort of a discrimination? And if that was the source of inspiration for you to join politics? Because you saw a lot of things that were not right.
There was a mix, two things. One is that I was not happy with the system here, where you could see discrimination, abuse, foul language used, threatening behavior from the majority of them at that time. I'm not saying there was no, from our side, no protests, but very little protest, because in the trade union movement, there was a majority of the white people who were still worried about losing their positions, because it's like these black people are taking our jobs.
Right.
These black people will take our houses. There was some element of relationships as well. I don't say that I regret any time coming here, but certainly that was one of the reasons I thought one need to, because people were running into the businesses, doing the marketing on the seasides and other places, working hard. It was not easy. I'm not saying that business was run on an easy path. It was very hard work people were doing, but they were doing for themselves. I wanted to do something where I would say that will change the life of majority. Once that life is changed, I believed it, and I still believe it, that I will get my share out of it.
So from liberal, I
Yeah.
think you, I mean, when
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
reading about
yeah.
you joined liberal. Why liberal? Why you
No,
moved to liberal?
yeah, because at that time when I decided to come into the mainstream, I joined the trade unions, start working on issues with the trade union, working very closely with the TUC, joined the marches. Then, as you know, that when you are young, I was nearly 24, 25, new arrival from India. I was pushing myself forward, and many people realized that yes, he's active, he should be enrolled into the mainstream politics. I would use the term for our purposes. There was some hidden agenda in the Labour Party. There was no encouragement. Somebody from the Liberal Party approached me, and I assessed it. And because that time it was not that I will be a MP or a mayor or a councillor. That time was that how to get into the mainstream of the political.
To bring changes.
To
because
bring the change.
everyone, most of the Asians you have seen, they started working 24/7 to improve their life. But you wanted to improve the life of majority.
Yeah.
That was your mission.
My line was that it's a working class
Right.
and the other class,
Right.
whether you can say it, rich people,
People and poor.
people with the money,
Right.
the masters and the servant attitude. I wanted to bring that change.
Right.
And I wanted to join the mainstream of politics. When somebody approached me, and I joined it with the view that I'm in the mainstream. Because at that time it was the Conservatives, Labour, and the Liberal.
Right.
Okay, Liberal Party's policies on some issues on the immigration was quite open and straightforward, and I decided to join and start reading and understanding the political scenarios then. But I joined it. But soon after, when I was running joining the campaigns in the, against the busing in the local area, against the housing policy of the Ealing Council, joining those campaigns which housing, education, social services, where the people were not getting the opportunities. Then Labour Party leadership in the local area, and I wanted to mention few names like Michael Elliott, Percy Sennett, Joyce Graham. They were the leaders of the Ealing Council, local leader of the chairman of the local Labour Party, local councillor. They then start approaching me. In that meantime, after studying it, talking to more people, because once you've gone into the mainstream, you come across many senior activists and political leaders. And you start picking up and then trying to make the difference.
So you started as a bus conductor,
Yeah.
I remember. And I think when I am looking at you, you have a very high emotional intelligence. So you interact with people. What kind of challenges most of the people were experiencing at that time when we are talking about 1960, 1970? And how do you see it has changed now? What are the changes you have seen so far?
We have moved quite far, what I going to say in 1960s.
Right.
Because then after that, when we were campaigning, but the TUC was leading, the Transport General Workers Union was leading, the Liberal Party, Labour Party, churches, local religious bodies, bodies like Indian Workers Association, they were campaigning for changes in the law.
Right.
On the Race Relations Act. The Labour Party felt it, and they set up Race Relation Board, Race Relations, then later on the Commission for Racial Equality, to fight against racism. The laws were made on sex discrimination, race relations, immigration laws were changed, Disability Act. So there was a different acts came during the 70s.
Right.
That was to give the legal protection to the people if they are discriminated. That was in the 70s.
Right.
But to change the practice and the mindset of those people, it was not easy.
It was a motive, I can
Yeah?
see.
And that is still reflecting somewhere in the society as a whole. After nearly 50 years as well, it's still there.
Who are your role models? Who inspired you in your life? Because I know that I worked with you when you were counselor. I was running the addiction project. You supported us, and you were supporting the community, and you were raising the war against addiction.
Yeah.
What brings you energy every day in the morning? Because you're 75 years, young man, with so much of energy, so much of enthusiasm, so much of love and care. Who is your role model in your life?
Well, thank you very much for even remembering the late 91,
92, yeah, I remember
when
that.
I was actively and still am actively involved in mental health and other issues, in addictions and others, because I think these are the evils in the society. We need to get rid of it and give the fully support needed to those people who got into this difficult time. When I joined the political service, it was happening to the Asians alone. Mine was that it is against the working class. That's why I joined the political party, or parties, or both the parties. Then I moved to the Labour, because I understood in the late 69 and early 70, about a year and a half later, that to fight for the rights of the our black and minority people, that we need to have the protection from the main political parties. Not, you cannot fight. It's a big fight, and we will be lost in that. So, but I also come from a family background which my father was and I say that with a lot of pride into it, was a political activist with the very strong social values. Being a freedom fighter, then played a very major part into the development of Punjab from 1947 until he died. His way of life, his advice on times on issues, that how to manage the difficulties rather than going around and giving up on that. There's always a solution to the difficult period, whether it is a short term or long term. You need to be not panicking, but you need to sit, analyze, and work around it. And I feel that his political beliefs, his visionary approach helped me. Even today, when there's any time I have a problem, I think of him and think very clearly how he would have done that.
Excellent. And what kind of personal and political values you have, and how do you really share that with the community, with your family, and the rest of the world?
I'm influenced by my mother's approach to life, my mother's commitment on the areas of women empowerment.
Right.
I always say that she was not campaigner on the women issues what we see today, but she knew it, what need to be done to help a woman or a girl to be successful in life. Though the end of the day was the marriage of the girl is crucial in the society in those days, and still it is. Some families still believe the end service you can give is the wedding of your own daughter. But my mother, because she was not had any formal education, when my sister was born, and she did share that with my father and with my grandfather, that I never had the education, but I don't want my daughter to be without any education. So that's why my village school was opened when my sister was 4 years old. My mother opened the school. My mother paid the salary to the teacher who was teaching her. And then she encouraged other girls of my sister's age to join and study. My mother's view was that a woman must be independent financially. She should not be dependent, and she should be, the girl or the woman should be in a profession. That's why my old sisters and many of her peers, my sisters' friends and the girls from my village, they all had proper education after my sister gone into the education.
For all.
Education for all rather than, and I always say that my mother's vision for that. She knew because she suffered, because she was dependent upon my father all the time. There was no telephones, and she could not even write a letter to her parents. She, otherwise nowadays there's the phone calls, phones and mobile phones. In those days, the letter was the only way of communication. She even missed many important events in her life. Her father died, my Nanaji died, and she found out only about 10 days later that he died. She could not go to the funeral or see her father. So that is a touching point in my life, that my mother was sharing her stories with us and saying, you must do something. And my mother and my father both believe you fight for improvements in the society as a whole. You wanted everybody to succeed, should have an education, good health services. If that is accepted by the society as a whole, if the governments are giving the resources and the support in that area, you will be automatically getting your share.
Excellent. So basically, when you do something for everyone else, you're going to be the part of it. So
Yeah.
that's your motto,
Yeah.
that
I-
helping others will help us in a very subtle way. You know, in longer term,
Yeah.
when you bring one changes,
Yeah.
it will have a significant impact on everyone else.
Dwaka is two ways. One is that you're doing immediate help.
Right.
People have immediate casework. You do on their behalf the representation to the institution they should be getting. Say, if it's the housing, you write to the council. If it's the immigration, you write to the home office. You help, or you seek help from others. The people come to you with the hope because they believe that this is the person who is in a position to help.
Right.
If you don't help, whether you are a local councillor, you are an activist, you just happen to be around, or a member of parliament, and the person comes to you, if you say, look, it's nothing to do with me, or I don't know, then you are actually neglecting it.
But how do you manage? Because this is very interesting. I have observed you for a very long period of time. And you're available, I think, 24/7.
Yeah.
You're aware that you leave your home early in the morning and coming back at 11 or 12 or whatever. Most of the community, they are engaging with you. They want you to be there. How do you manage this work-life balance? Because it means a lot of sacrifice within the family. Any message for our younger generation or for others?
I must give credit to my own family first,
Right.
particularly my wife, who from nearly 54 years now, married, and helped me and supported me throughout. She never, I always say that she never demanded. She might sometimes say it, that I don't get what I want, but I made sure that you don't go without what you want. My son, yes, she sacrificed. Her ambitions, her wishes, aspirations, she killed them for me because she wanted to support me. That's where my selfishness come. That
It's
I
not your selfishness, because I think it's not about you. I think because you were there for the community, you were not doing anything for yourself. And I think that makes a lot of difference, because it's not about that you were working to make money for yourself or doing something for yourself. You were bringing the changes in the society. That kind of support and inspiration you got from your wife as well. So she must be inspired by you.
Yeah, but she supported me. That's without questioning. But you feel sometimes that I did not give what I had the capacity to give. But I never ran after money.
I know.
I earned enough. I never claimed any unemployment benefit throughout. I never claimed any sickness benefit in my 54 years working life in Britain, because I always wanted to work. I make sure that I have a reasonable amount coming in house so that my children, my son Bobby, my daughter Monica in those days, they get what they need. I never gave them.
What they desire. That's interesting. I'm sorry, it's a very emotional moment for you. But that's a sacrifice. And this part of you, I think, many people, they might be aware of it. But politics or political life is not easy. Um,
No,
so, what
it's
should be the driving force for someone who is in politics, in
yeah.
your opinion?
Look, it's a desire to serve the humanity. Realizing that society has given you a position
Right.
to help it back. I'm elected member. People vote for me with the hope, they put trust in me, they have the belief that this is the right person. And other MPs as well, they want the trust of the public, that's why we are there.
Sure.
But in return, we need to give it back. We need to, I believe it, that you, you need to make yourself available when
Someone.
they need you.
Absolutely.
Okay? And I never, that was my, I said that my wife, both my son and daughter, who as young kids in those days, even they were not married and living in the house together, they always answered the calls when the phone comes on my landline. Even 2 o'clock in the morning, I have, and my wife, or sometimes if my son or now my grandchildren living in the house, they answer the calls.
Right.
With the view that somebody ringing must be important. You don't ignore it, because my also belief is that if you ignore the call and later on you find out, if I had answered that call, I could have saved somebody's life. I could have done something good for somebody. I could have given somebody a satisfaction for a moment, because it is also satisfying when person believes that he need to talk to a member of parliament or somebody advisor or person with some position, and they come with the hope. If you are not there, you are not responding, you're not only breaking any humanitarian issues and not the trust, but you also creating an environment of mistrust. And that's where my family, now my grandchildren, Atish, Ria, Jaden, they've taken that approach as well, that we must give back to the people.
So you're a role model for your family as well. But how do you manage? I mean, I know Southall and Ealing, we have a very diverse community. And when we have a diverse community, it means that we have a different value system, different belief system, different expectations, and obviously different conflicts and challenges. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the challenges? And how do you create, opportunities from challenges? And how do you satisfy such a diverse community?
There's two ways. One is you just ignore it and forget it. I don't do that. I have made this very public known opinion that I'm a secular, though I have my faith,
Sure.
but when I'm dealing with on political or social or humanitarian grounds, I'm representing the whole community, irrespective of their race, color, or creed. I prioritize my community's needs first. I just give it's a humorous example. If I have a choice to go to visit a family because they needed some help, and I said, okay, I will come and visit you, or I have to go to the shopping, I will not go for the shopping, because I think shopping, we got enough in the house, but it can wait for a day. But that person who needed me might be dependent upon my advice or or sharing their talk to me. That's the way I balance it.
Right.
But again, I get a support from the family. I get a support from my community people. I get the support from my staff. My staff is also, though their salary is 35 hours a week, but they are 24 hours.
I know.
They work day and night. My whole staff team, they plan amongst themselves. I never told them how to plan your work. They know it, my needs. They know it that if I'm not in the office, they know I'm not sitting at home sleeping or doing something which they feel that why should we work. I'm lucky to have that kind of support. I also, Dwaka, you must say that I got friendship with the people who were bus conductors with me. I had the friendship with people, we were in the school together back home, then moved, whether they're living in Canada, living in here, or other part of the world. But I maintain that. But I'm fortunate having such kind of support from the community in general. People believes, people trust me, and people have shown that trust when I count my votes.
But you are trustworthy as well. So few last questions. One, your vision of England. What do you think what is changed? What is still needs to change? How do you see England in the years to come? Ideal, in your opinion?
I believe that Britain have the capacity, know-how, the skills, and migrant communities have a role to play in that.
Right.
Our third generation, fourth generation generally, they are well qualified, well supported, and they contribute as effectively as anybody else. So we are part of the society in Britain, and we are looking at whenever it is the local issues, whether regional issues, national issues, or international issues. In my constituency, during the COVID, all the religious places opened their doors for giving the free food.
Yes.
Whether it's a gurdwara, mandir, or masjid, or other places, churches. The local restaurants has given the food. The names, I personally given hundreds of names and addresses to the restaurant people. I have asked if whether it is a Muslim-run business or Hindu-run businesses, that if it's somebody come to me or requested on the air or through the grapevine that somebody from the different faith, I made it sure that if it's a Muslim, their dietary needs as well as their religious needs are met. And every restaurant in my country, when I say every restaurant given the free food to hundreds of people, irrespective. One thing I must put as well, some restaurants given free food to if you are working in the front line of NHS, fire brigade, police. You show the pass and you will get it. Whether 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever numbers you say, we are 5 people working, give the food for 5. I have written to the local police, fire brigade, National Health Services in the Ealing Hospital, Hillingdon Hospital to say to your staff, go to the restaurants, give if anybody don't give you, please let me know.
Wow.
And with millions of one restaurant owner given 1 million meals, organized that, and he was on the BBC. 1 million meals organized in the UK.
So your vision is more about inclusive society, where maintain if you have a faith, respect that faith, but also at the same time equality. If there's anything else?
No, I think that we need to come out. My vision is that we start supporting each other,
Right.
irrespective of our faiths. There is a need locally, nationally, internationally. We must come out because that little contribution, which one drop, then it becomes the sea.
So it's all about humanity and humanitarian work. Before I let you go, your message to youth.
I'm saying that the future lies with the young people. You have every opportunity to get into the better education, the current new skills. You have a responsibility not to yourself alone, not only to your families, but also globally. Now we are a global community. We are not individuals anymore. You have the support of your fathers, parents, grandparents, and the families. Don't miss the opportunity. Grab the opportunity. Become professionals. Become more human and serve the humanity.
Thank you, sir. Your mentor for us and inspiration for us. We have learned quite a lot, and I'm sure that we'll interact more. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.